All right, as the famous singer Pink said, let's get this party started. So, hi everybody, I'm Kevin Kelly. I'm the Interim Executive Director for the Digital Center for Innovation, Transformation, and Equity. We're one of the co-hosts of this summit, and we're so happy that you all joined us. Today, you are in for a treat. We have an amazing panel of super bright people, and I'm just here to guide the conversation. From planning to practice, robotics and automation, shaping the next generation workforces. So our cast of characters here include Mike Appio, Carol Riley, Roger Tadayevsky, and Richard Chapman, and I'm going to ask them to each introduce themselves. I've given them all license if they wished to have a couple of slides to talk a little bit about their backgrounds and the projects they're working on, and then we'll dive into questions. So I'm going to hand it over to Mike.
Hello, my name is Mike Appio. I'm from De-Anza College. I'm going to kind of set the tone here a little bit of where we came from, where we want to be, and how this really affects the industrial automation program that we want to do. My aspect's going to be from we're at kind of the infancy stage. Now up here, it's a very established program. Now you're seeing that lab. So that's what that lab looked like when I came there in 2008. We had 10 manual machines and 2 simulators. The program has evolved to multi-axis machining, robotic cells, additive manufacturing program with 6 classes. So over the years, it's really evolved. So our success back there is what I want to do. Once again, we're on the infancy stage of starting one, but yet we're very well established in the financial stage, so we'll fill in the blanks. And now industrial automation technology is going to be our strong point in the future of what we're working for. Now going back to this really quickly is we do these programs already. It'd be advanced manufacturing, quality technician, additive manufacturing. Our expansion recently has been multi-axis CNC machining, and I'll go back that. But our way into automation was robotic work cells with Fanuc arms and things of that nature, which is a great segue into the automation. Our problem was we needed technicians to fix these robots and run the equipment. Our program now, and as you'll talk a little later, and I definitely want to give a shout out to Richard, because Richard at Hartnell has been kind of the base agriculture that we're in the tech area. But we're going to start a program and talk later about some industrial automation systems with Festo and our aligned and industry recognized certifications, which they'll cover here with NC3 as a start, which is a great start to do that. I'm going to move in. Now as we get going on this, we have the plan to move it. We have Festo NC3 as to start out our program along things. Just to give you an idea of the innovation that we've had and how it's financed was many years through CACT. This is going way back. De-Anza actually had a full-blown industrial automation program in the late 90s and 2000s, but I believe it was so far ahead of its time that it wasn't successful, but we do have that background. We do have other people that found a foundation is over $1 million to put in the program. Let me talk a little about the NSF ATE grant, which is a great way to segue into automation and professional development. Our grant was actually based on professional development and professional development instructors and offering it. And through our discussions up here, what we really talked about was the money it takes for professional development is a whole nother funding source to do that. So our NSF pathways, we did something called the BUILT program. I don't know if you're familiar with that throughout the country. Part of getting this program going is you have to have a solid advisory. I think everybody knows that. We don't need an advisory committee that shows up for 10 minutes, you have cookies, go home. It has to be a serious. So this BUILT was part of NSF, and people can do this. It was live, this BUILT program, and I'll speak about it because we're doing it with industrial automation. We did it with our additive, these were live. These people were live. We had 100 KSAs, and they were live, and they were voting on their phone. So we did not invite instructors, only industry specialists from NASA, from you name it through the Bay Area. And they voted live on what they thought we should be teaching. And the unique thing was then I brought it to my instructors and thought what they should be teaching. And surprisingly, there was a difference. Surprisingly, okay? But nonetheless, we're going to do with all our programs coming up this same way. And it's really neat. It's a deal where they're voting 1 through 4 on every KSA I could possibly come up through this whole program, so we'll build that. I truly believe if you're going to be successful, more than just talking to your advisory once in a while or going visit tours, they have to be connected. I mean forced connected to make that work. So as far as some of the other stuff we're working on a little bit, we have an IDRC grant, which is going to help us put equipment into the program. We have other grants there, advanced manufacturing partnerships, that is a combination of automation technicians and machinists. So I think the goal where I'm coming from and what we're doing is how every one of our programs, whether I can put automation into 3D printing, which I think I can, automation into CNC machining, or the basic. If you don't have a technician that could fix anything, then the rest of the areas are kind of worthless there. So that's kind of our approach to it and where we want to be funding-wise and what our plans are. And obviously, with NC3 and Festo starting us out, we have an awesome foundation. Sorry.
So next we'll hear from Carol. And there's a mic right there next to you.
Hi, my name is Carol Riley. I'm known as the mother of robots. For the past 20 years, I've been working in AI and robotics from, I think, just doing lots of different industries, from land, sea, and air robotics. I spent a long time in healthcare, wanting to bring a robot into every hospital. I was at Intuitive Surgical. I was an instructor at Hopkins and working at Intuitive to try to develop the pedagogy of what does surgical training look like and how do you standardize it globally. And then had a shift where I was working on what could be more disruptive than healthcare, which is self-driving cars. So I had founded a company called Drive.ai that was acquired by Apple in 2019. And for the past 5 years, I've been working in the AI and creativity space, since I had believed that that was an area that seemed to be the core of humanity and the thing that humans should try to protect, and the values. So I work with the San Francisco Symphony to curate tech programs. So how do humans and robots work together and develop things that they couldn't independently? So I think robots help people scale to pick up boulders. They can scale down to do microsurgery, get rid of hand tremor reduction. So how do you utilize and couple these two things to make humans super creative, super strong, super anything? So for the last 5 years, I've really been exploring the arts space. I work with the Exploratorium to develop their new initiatives and wing for AI. I have an exhibit there right now. And then I worked with the Symphony and OpenAI before it became OpenAI, and have a Grammy nomination for an AI-produced track. So I think there's this interesting space as we're getting so disruptive in both robotics and AI. If you go to the next slide, I think, it's, or even the one after that. So I just feel like now is the time. I think there's been a shift. It was robotics in the 2010s that have been really, and then there was a maker movement of 3D printing and additive manufacturing, which had a wave. And then deep learning really disrupted the AI field, so it swung back to software. And then I think now we're seeing the rise again of robotics and automation. So those are just my observations on that side. Thank you.
Thanks, Carol. And now we'll hear from Roger.
Thank you, Kevin. I'm Roger Tedeschi, Executive Director for the National Coalition of Certification Centers, otherwise known as NC3, and we were brought together by you all, by community college presidents back in 2008 and 2009, came together to start to look at how can education as a whole, but just not at community colleges, but at high schools, how do we really truly come together if we're going to develop and talk about industry recognized, industry developed competency-based certifications? How do we do that? And then how do we also work with boards of trustees, leadership, all the way to the instructors, so that we can drive and help that alignment with industry? On the flip side of that is, if we could put that together, our thought was back in 2008, how can we then work with global leading industries to help us develop those core competencies, those core certifications that are going to be important as they were then, as they are now, to help drive and build the infrastructure that we, as we know, we need always in the United States, but most certainly as we continue to update, whether it's our roads, our technologies, and when we think about AI, and energy and those pieces, and how do we do all those things? Well, you still need electricians and plumbers. So as you look at the slide, every one of those companies have over 100 years of being up in that upper fourth quadrant of bringing new technologies into the global workspace. So if you think about Lincoln Electric or Thermo King, any of them, those are all corporations that continue to lead in their areas. So they are key partners with us. And then, of course, if we just take Festo, we were thinking about Festo, and you think about the food packaging, the biomedical, general manufacturing, and those things. Probably in the United States in food and food packaging, probably 80 or 85% of all food and food packaging is probably done with Festo technology. So think about everything under Coke or Pepsi or Nestle's or all those, that is, and that whole supply chain is being utilized in there, and that continues to evolve. So we work with them to bring those certifications to light and then be able to deliver them through great schools like you'll hear from Hartnell and Foothills that we are developing that can be delivered directly to the schools. I won't go a whole lot in detail into it, but just to give our audience some idea of when I talk about industry certifications, these are the design and architecture to each one of them are designed so you can embed them into your 4-credit program. You can put them into a non-credit program. You can put them into adult ed, apprenticeships, dual enrollment, all those pieces. That structure is already there and is operating. So fast forward to 2025, we have a little over 200 plus certifications that are in our portfolio. Again, all developed by industry. And then those certifications then are also underwritten by industry so they can be delivered without cost to your student. So as you invest in your technology, your professional development, those certifications that you issue to your students, there is not an additional cost to that, because the big picture goal is how do we help every student in our communities be part of that social economic fabric, and that's one of the things that every one of these corporations are part of. Next slide. Just to give you a little bit of breadth and scope, we operate in all 50 states, a little over 600 plus community colleges. We're right at almost 2,000 K through 12 schools that are operating, as well as universities in Canada, Jamaica, Puerto Rico, and so forth that we're doing that. So part of what I do want to touch on is great, we hear about AI, right? We're building all these things, but what does that mean to you? Do we have any college presidents in the room with us today? Facilities, strategists, those kind of things. When we're thinking about upgrades to our programs, yes, you can go update just like Mike is doing here, but what we also got to make sure is that we include our facilities people and our industry people, because the electricity that's coming into our colleges and into our buildings that might have been built in the 60s and 70s with one purpose and an idea back then for 20 or 30 years, there's a lot of infrastructure pieces that you need to also be planning for today, but also in the future. So, and it's not always about new buildings. We can take and we work across the country. We probably helped 400 plus colleges upgrade, whether it's their HVAC programs, their refrigeration, their welding programs. So for example, this one here at Wichita is a building that was built probably in the 60s, but now it is a full-fledged building automation system controls lab, a learning lab where students not only are learning the technology, but as the building changes temperature, again, it's Wichita, so there's days that it's 108 degrees there. How does that impact the environment in the classroom? So students are getting real-world activities every day in there as they're going through these certifications. Next slide. So this is Patrick and Henry in Virginia, just outside of Dansville. This building here, if you would go back about 10 years, 2010, 2011, it was actually a NASCAR race car engine facility where they were building race car engines in. And there was some combining of race car teams. This building became available, It did not look like this internally as when they got it, but like I say, we worked with a general contractor. They did a lot of power washing, cleaned it all up, and here's a great building that had great bones, all that to it, and now is one of our most advanced level 3 robotics human-machine interaction labs in the country. So they are working directly, and again, as Carol touched on, robotics and healthcare, we think about our hospitals, the infrastructure, the HVAC, the plumbing, the water, whether it's data centers, hospitals, our housing updates, all those things. This core infrastructure right now in the United States has close to 2 million jobs that, whether you're a contractor for buildings, upgrading facilities, infrastructure of our roads and bridges, all those things that are being built are going to be tremendous. But the key thing, that training, all that will come through the community colleges. That is the only place that it is being delivered, can be delivered, and will be delivered in the future. So we are working tirelessly across the country. And then again, with dual enrollment, we are doing some projects even with middle school math and science teachers to introduce them to the basic of robotics and what are those key competencies, that math, hydraulics, physics, that apply to that, so students get engaged, their parents get engaged, community gets and help drive that piece. So I think that's the last slide, right? Yeah. Okay.
All right, last but not least, let's hear from Richard.
Yeah, hello, Richard Chapman. I teach agricultural engineering and advanced manufacturing at Hartnell College in Salinas, in Monterey County. And as far as I know, we are the first and still only agricultural mechatronics associate's degree in the state. And so what I'm doing is, when they hired me a few years ago, 5 years ago now, we did what's called a DACM. We got representatives from all of our major agricultural companies in our community, the top employers, and said, if you could design your perfect technician, what are the skills and abilities and tools and just everything they need to know and do to perform their job? And then we worked our way backwards into getting some objectives and outcomes for the program. And then I went to work on developing courses and updating my degree in the program. And that connected us with NC3 through the equipment distributor. And there was other distributors that did bids to outfit our shop with equipment. We talk about shop upgrades. If you were to walk into my shop when I was hired, it was like a sheet metal shop, like they're bending sheet metal and cutting sheet metal. And like there's not a lot of jobs in agriculture where you're, maybe for making gutters or something, but that's not ag, So it was very interesting. It was very 1980s. And so we did a big upgrade. And the beauty about partnering with NC3 and their partner Festo is like Roger said, most automation equipment and processing and some of the outdoor automation is made by Festo. And so when you use the Festo training equipment, they're hands-on with the exact same parts that they're going to be hands-on in the real world, which is really cool. You get other training equipment, that's not necessarily the case. It's a reduced version for education, not necessarily the real part numbers that match, same catalog, same everything. So that was a huge benefit. But took the information from that DACM, created a new sequence of courses. This is my first community college job as well, so learning the new world of community college and the requirements there. Really trying to meet the community's needs. Because they have a lot of needs, but to get that down into a 2-year degree with general education requirements and all that kind of stuff. So, and then another unique situation that we deal with in Salinas, the type of crops that we grow are very labor intensive. So any companies trying to improve efficiency, labor being a potential issue there, especially when they can't fill all the jobs. There's more jobs than they have people. And then the food safety side of this as well. Food safety is extremely important in what we call specialty crops, your veggies and leafy greens, because there's usually not what we call a kill step. Those are things that are not cooked. If you're making a salad, there's nothing killing pathogens and stuff like that. It's not cooked. So you mentioned the clean room and medical stuff. Well, agriculture and post-harvest processing has its own clean room type thing and good agricultural practices that we have to follow. And then to make things even more fun, during the winter months, they uninstall and pack up and ship all this processing equipment to Southern California and Arizona because the growing season goes down there. So that just makes things even more interesting, as far as reinstalling and recalibrating and plumbing and electrical and anchoring and all that kind of stuff, all that equipment twice a year. So I was able to take all that feedback and create a sequence of classes, and then considering the migrant workers that are part of this, they would really struggle with a 16-week class. So I took my 16-week classes and my first 2 levels, broke them down into 2 8-week classes, 2 units each kind of a thing. And so that way when the one class ends the middle of October and they're starting to transition to Yuma, Arizona, they don't fail a 16-week class. They actually pass the first class. When they come back, they have the opportunity in March to take the second level class. So they're not just dead in the water. They actually have the opportunity to continue through their education and upskill. And those classes each being 72 hours also make it really, really well for dual enrollment in high schools. 1 period, 1 semester, 72 hours is just about right. As opposed to a full 144-hour class in 1 semester. They couldn't do that without multiple periods, which a lot of high schools don't have the flexibility to do 2-period blocks with their classes. So that's pretty much where we're at. Again, right now, really focus on the post-harvest value-added technology. So think bag salad, the automation technology that goes into a bag salad or a veggie tray or some of that value-added stuff, but really starting to explore now into the outdoor automation, principles of smart manufacturing and farming, starting a small partnership with John Deere where they talked about digital twin in their fields and stuff. So pretty cool, mapping your fields and stuff and using principles of smart manufacturing, automated harvesting, automated thinning and weeding machines, that kind of stuff. So single person department right now, so it's a lot on my plate, but definitely looking to expand as well.
Fantastic. So you can see we have quite a variety of backgrounds represented here. And when we come to our questions, we wanted to start with, and some of this has been covered a little bit by our panel, but I want to put it out there. So where are we now with respect to robotics, automation, the impact of AI on those? Give us an idea of basically how you see the industry, and then later on we'll get to where it's headed. So maybe since we finished with you, Richard, let's start with you this time.
Yeah. So where we are currently in agriculture, I mentioned about the labor challenges right now in the tasks like thinning and harvesting. So where we see the companies going right now is investing and researching into automation technology in the growing practices. The post-harvest technology, like the bag salad type stuff, that's been automated since inception, essentially. And they're adding more automation, palletization with robots and stuff like that. They're finding more ways to automate and improve efficiency. But that's not unlike any other manufacturing process that's automated, But in the outdoor technology right now, so the labor-intensive jobs like thinning weeds and stuff, they've invented machines that use cameras and AI technology to determine where the crops are in the field and where the non-crops or the weeds would be in the field, and maybe they're doing precision spraying with pesticide or precision application of fertilizer to the crop, so they're cutting their chemical inputs down by like 80-90%, that alone. Another option is like carbon robotics and their laser weeding technology, again, cameras, AI, machine learning to where they're finding the crops, they're finding the weeds, aiming and shooting lasers at the weeds. Literally, it's like Star Wars out in the fields right now. And it's actually pretty cool because, you think 10 years ago, if a student wanted to become a mechanic in agriculture and they wanted to work on machinery, they need to learn lasers and they're generating a lot of electricity on that mobile piece of equipment, and then the AI and camera and that kind of technology. So the skills gap is gigantic, right? And then we're getting into the harvesting technology as well, and it's different games. If you have leafy greens, they're a low to the ground crop, and the way they harvest them is pretty low to the ground. But then we also grow a lot of berries in my community. Strawberries being our #1 commodity in my county, and that's very easy to damage the strawberry if you try to harvest that, automated. So they're trying to come up with new technologies. Festo's working on different gripper technology for robots and stuff like that would be used in strawberries. So, and then we have, all the greenhouse practices as well, becoming more automated, vertical farming, getting into automated transplanting, with the company Plant Tape that does automated transplanting and stuff. So that's, again, we're improving efficiencies anywhere any other manufacturing company would. It's just in the agriculture world.
So let's shift from agriculture to the creative space, Carol, and some of the other industries you worked in, since it's such a broad spectrum.
Sure. So, I think we often say like AI is the new electricity since it pervades every single industry. I think it will be quite disruptive to the workforce and how we think about the future of work in many different ways. I'm starting to try to figure out how do you, I feel like it's extremely hard for like college graduates nowadays to find entry-level jobs, and everyone is upskilling, so you essentially need the skills of like a CEO to be able to manage and tell AI what to do. And once again, it's like having 1,000 bad interns that you have to keep checking their work and like make sure what you said is actually executed correctly. So I think that like critical thinking skill is necessary, and like very democratized in the sense that like I'm seeing like fifth graders come up with projects that took grad students, like years to uncover. So it's a weird shift in how quickly people can learn and how asynchronous everything is. But I think that I'm extremely hopeful for like new types of things coming out. It's just going to be happening so quickly. So just trying to, I think it's a full-time job just to like read the news about what is happening in robotics and in automation at this point. So, and I think I'm really interested in the upskilling of people, and then also how to preserve like different values and how do people interact together. Like my work is in human-computer interaction. So how do we and robots coexist together, and how do we utilize each other's strengths? And on the flip side, just human-to-human interaction, I think, is going to be redefined. So really looking at how people interact with these machines, so you don't always just have like ChatGPT answers. And I think we're looking at like in the music industry, authentication, artist rights, new types of performances, so like things like ballerinas and robots dancing together, and new art forms. I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to look for new ways and like remove ourselves from the drudgery of tedious tasks that you may not want to do. But then I'm really trying to think about like that core group of high school to college level kids and how to upskill them quick enough in this new world so that they still find interesting jobs, or if it moves to like more of a gig economy. So it just open questions on that side at this point as we go into exploration.
So I think that is a good kind of juxtaposition between a pretty focused field and the state of kind of where we are with respect to agriculture. I like the way, Carol, you framed the ideas related to how the span of ages is changing, how ready people are for taking on robotics and automated industry type tasks, and actually being the architects of the solutions. Maybe, Roger, you can tell us a little bit about the current state of certifications and preparing people, as we heard needs to happen at a faster rate now. And there's a mic in front of you as well.
This one doesn't not work. Yeah, just to build on what Richard and Carol touched on from an education and certification standpoint, just if we think about for our instructors, whether it's at the high school or community college level, let's just kind of think about, one piece I'd add to that builds onto, Richard touched on food and creating those salad bags and all that. Well, that gets put into a trailer that's refrigerated, and a big part of that is called Thermo King. But that could be pharmaceuticals, could be a lot of things. That it could leave California and be expected to be in Chicago by less than 12 hours. So historically, that refrigerated unit, and that could be put on a railroad car. You see the railroad cars, next time you see railroad cars going by and you have 80 of them, you gotta wait. Just look at how many of them actually have a refrigerated unit on that rail car that's going by. They're running, they've got refrigeration going, they've got an auxiliary power unit, typically a little small diesel engine in there running. And historically, they just ran and they hoped by the time it got to its destination that everything was good, right? If it's supposed to be at 38 degrees, leaves California, gets to Chicago, hopefully it's at 38 degrees. Now there was a lot of loss in food and food product and other high value product up to about 2011, 2012. Already today, those units are already connected to the cloud. The AI is part of that infrastructure already. So now today when that rail car or that truck leaves California and is going somewhere, it is literally being tracked and followed every second all the way. And if they see it go, it's supposed to be at 38 degrees and it drops down to 37 in the middle of Kansas, well, it might be just ambient temperature that's adjusting and they'll pay attention to it. But if it goes up to 44 degrees, they're going to be pulling that rail car off. They've already used AI to look at the data to see what's happening on it. They will pull that rail car off in St. Louis or wherever it be. They'll have a technician on that, working on that, protect that material and get that going. So to teach all that, all those certifications, that's, again, as I mentioned earlier, comes through you all, through the community colleges. So one of the things that NC3 is, and Richard can touch on this, and Mike will be going through this very soon, is our professional development. Our goal is how do we help your instructors learn this technology, go through it, and how do we help you come up to 80-85% of what current technology is? We connect you directly to the industry, global industry partner on that, and then we sustain that by update training, constant contact communications on that, and then doing professional development. And I could go on, but if we think about welding, and you touched on the medical industry, so welders today that are welding in that product that's going into the hospital medical industry, there's basically a birth certificate for every piece of equipment that's going in there. It's being who welded it, when it was put together. All that is already utilizing AI in that engineering tracking process. So the welders today coming out of you, if you have a welding program, welders today in industry already are utilizing AI in their preparation, their planning, their layouts, the equipment that they're using is attached. All those things are all been becoming normalized, and it's a great thing. But the important part is for you at the institutions, it's a huge opportunity because as students come through your programs and get those skill sets, the companies that also want to upskill their workers or hire in other people, they, just as Richard touched, there's a lot of short-term training that is coming back that generates revenue for your programs. I was just in DC and I visited with a gentleman from Greene County Career Center in Ohio that said he had something like 150 current employees, incumbent workers that came during the summer back to his program to go through some welding certifications, some QA, some precision measurement certifications, and that drove that revenue, but also got those businesses and industries better connected to the school in that pipeline piece. So those are things that we're doing now already across the country and communities, and quite frankly, we're doing quite a bit already in California, but we've got a lot more work to do, and I'll touch on that in a little bit on where we want to continue to grow.
I'm just going to touch in a little bit on where the AI comes into our program and already has a little bit with the future. I think what you've seen is agriculture, so you've seen hundreds of acres. We've seen welding, hundreds of cars. It's large quantities. I think the key in the Bay Area to be successful is we have close to I send out 200 to 300 cards every quarter to smaller businesses that have 10 to 40 employees. How do you get them to use automation? It is very successful. So there's a big company that's working with a smaller company. But with the object with the smaller companies, what we're trying to work with them is they're not making thousands, they're making 20, 30, 40. So anytime you're working anything in automation and you need to change speeds, a human has to change grippers, or grippers have to change. All these things have to change that require a person. Where the automation we're trying to work on with a company is pick and place type stuff and they're subcontractors for the lambs, for everybody else. What we're working on with the company and trying to do with the college is the machine can actually, as you go home, we could run that part of 20, 10, 15, 30, and this machine's capable of changing the grippers, doing all the work through AI commands overnight to do a series of parts 10 at a time, 20 at a time. Because I'll admit, being a small business owner for many years, I wouldn't have thought of automation to make 10 parts or 20 parts or whatever. But to take that one more step, I have a student that bought 2 machines, has automation in between these machines, runs it by himself, and runs 40 different parts on a weekend, and this thing's smart enough to pick up the different shapes and do stuff while he's not there. So our goal in automation is not so much the hundreds, thousands, millions. It's that we would like to get it to all of the small communities and the big communities. Don't get me wrong, we work with Tesla, we work with other ones. But I think you'd be amazed if you focused in on how many small businesses support the big ones that need to be automated too because of a skills gap. And that's our big problem, is the skills gap.
Thanks, Mike. So we wanted to talk a little bit about the workforce itself and how we can create a more diverse workforce. In our role here in the California Community Colleges, 2.1 million students, and it's one of the most diverse educational environments in the country, right? And so as we were looking at opportunities to get into robotics and automation, how do we create entryways? Again, it may be at the 5th grade level, as Carol suggested earlier, but even within our own student body, when a student says, I don't quite know what I want to major in, or I don't quite know what I want to do, like how do we reach those students, and how do we make sure that we're making opportunities available to all the communities, even those that might be not normally represented? So I'm going to start maybe with you again, Mike, and we'll work our way back the other way.
Sure. The obvious one is, as you mentioned, is working with the high schools and dual enrollment. We're fortunate enough where the dual enrollment comes to our college to work with our equipment. It's quite obvious in the Bay Area that no high school has the amount of equipment that we have at the community college to work with. That's a big one. Our NSF ATE grant that I talked about focused directly on this problem right here. It's not a surprise that in some of these industries it needs a lot more female employees. That's a surprise. So we worked with veterans. Different individuals was the focus of our grant of bringing underrepresented individuals in through various stations. Mark's sitting over here. We're doing a program now where through the Department of Rehabilitation that we're working. It's called UAA. I'm working for 12 weeks with. You talk about underrepresented programs with high-functioning adults with autism. We're working a program now. They're graduating to get them to have them jobs. Now, the unique thing is other part of the countries with this same program. There's an automation program coming up in part of the program to get these same individuals in. So we're representing everybody, but quite obviously our goal at De-Anza is bringing the various diversified underrepresented populations into these great paying jobs that they can be successful, obtain a degree, and if they'd like, we have a plan for a four-year degree too. So we kind of have something for everybody.
Yeah, I touched on this, and this is super important, the diversity and how do we really, move from just a PowerPoint slide and really put it in action. So some of the things that NC3 is doing is, I'll start with this, is we work with schools to, how do we help a community college or a high school program become a destination of choice? That where the students want to be there. They look at that welding program, mechatronics program, ag program, plumbing program, electricity program, whatever it is, and they go, wow, I want to be part of that. Now, the harsh reality is I will tell you, I spend probably 20% of my time in any given month walking into, whether it's a college program or high school programs, and sometimes I say, wow, really? You haven't done anything in this program in the last 40 years? as it looks like that. Sometimes I walk in the programs and I use the slogan, I got to have a flashlight to see what's going on while the lights are still on in the place. Okay, so that starts with leadership. We just have to be honest in our communities, because when we walk in or industry walks in and they go, wow, you are all 20 or 30 years behind, they're going to nod their head. They'll come to the advisory committee meeting, but they're going to leave and they're going to try and figure out a different pathway. And you see it in the newspapers. You see it where companies are saying, well, we're going to start our own training programs. There's a reason behind that. And what we've got to all do is make sure, if we're going to help students and create a destiny of choice, especially the single parent student, the student that's living with a grandparent or an aunt or an uncle, and they don't know even how to get to you, and when they do get there, they go, boy, this is not what I'm looking at. It doesn't look like technology, and it's maybe not even clean. And so we're working on those things, along with, at the same time, we spend some time on a thing we call National Signing Day, that when students come to Hartnell from a high school on a trip and come and see what's happening there, and we create those environments to where they come back just like collegiate. You know, I live in Oklahoma, actually, and, you know, we steal some football players from Texas and Kansas, right? And you have these big signing days. Well, why don't we recognize students that are choosing to go into healthcare or going into plumbing, these other areas? So we do that to create that. And for young women, minorities, people that don't think that they're ever going to have a chance, we do a lot of those areas as well. And engage the parents and bring our industry partners in there, help drive that, but also spending time with that math and science teachers and counselors to help them know, and because this is also part of the employability skills, so that when we help young people come in and they go, wow, I want to be there, well, then that automatically gets them going to show up on time. They want to be part of that. They are engaged. And the instructor and the institutions become a place of inspiration. That all ends up in industry. Industry gets engaged, and it becomes contagious in a good way, and that's what is a big part of helping us grow and drive what we do at NC3 since our inception back in 2010.
While they're passing off, I want to add one thing. I really forgot the most important part, is having a diverse faculty, okay? I have instructors that can teach 3 languages, Spanish, Vietnamese, and we, in our manufacturing program, which is, you know, machining, everything, we brought a female instructor in. So I think it's key that the instructional part of your program also represents a diverse area, and that will bring in, it'll give it, we need a more inclusive program through feeling people and what we're delivering and who's delivering it and what we represent. That's what I forgot.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, and I think it's a hard pipeline problem, right? Because I think we're seeing, like, the faculty are people who were educated 20 plus years ago, so those are like things that we're catching up on. And I think there's a great book from like the 90s, Unlocking the Clubhouse, which really talks about women in the computer science field. You know, there's a professor at MIT Media Lab, Mitch Resnick, who teaches the lifelong kindergarten lab, and he developed Scratch programming. But he says, the projects that you need to think about building for the curriculum is really like low floors, high ceilings, wide walls, right? So you really want people to be able to join at any level and then be able to scale up as far as they can. And then also have a wide variety of projects. So like one of my most influential classes was motor sensors and actuators. And it was we had to build a robot that created art that had human input. So you could scream into it and it could spray paint, it could be whatever you wanted, and you work with groups. And you know, I think there's something about non-competitive classes, because I think FIRST Robotics is great for turning it into a sport, and that appeals to like, it's completely changed like this young generation of roboticists. But on the other hand, it like has a different branding and it deters like certain type of person. So like Julia Robinson Math Festival is fantastic to get like people into math. It's non-competitive, like tangrams essentially, and problem solving. At Hopkins, because it's healthcare related, I think a lot of it is marketing, right? So like the biomedical program and computer science now has over 50% women, because I think, it's this desire to like want to help or mission-driven people. I think it's not just women, but just a certain type of person wants to be mission-driven. Berkeley changed their coding class name to the art and beauty of coding, and it instantly like popped up 20%. So I feel like there's the way you pose your curriculum and the title affects the students who choose to enroll, and then that has like a network effect. I think it's great to have a diversity of faculty, whether it be gender, racial, introverts versus extroverts. Is this someone that students can connect with, that like they feel included? And I think there also needs to be an intellectual peer. So if someone's taking a class, I think they're more willing to with a partner. So I think those are just some of the things. It doesn't have to be someone that looks like you, but just that you need someone along.
Yeah, I don't think I have a whole lot more to add that's already been said. I think a lot of the work for me to be able to train a diverse workforce starts in the high schools or possibly middle school. We have some local high schools that maybe have like an engineering pathway, but the companies in our community, they might have like 10-to-1 technicians to engineers. So if you're trying to look at filling the jobs, they're not going to be filling a lot of engineer jobs, but they will be filling a lot of technician jobs. So maybe the high schools need to take a better look. And I don't want to talk down on all the high schools and stuff, but I taught high school for 8 years, so I have an idea of what goes on there. I get a lot of students that come in out of high school and they just dislike math. It's like, well, the whole world runs on math, especially in this field, right? So, maybe if they could find more creative ways to teach math and physics to their students, that'd be cool. I think actually the mechatronics training could even, find a way to replace their math and physics class. Whatever work has to go in there, but that's what I'm teaching them is math and physics and everything. So, yeah, that's a great question. Hartnell does a lot of work. We're a Hispanic serving institution, and we get a lot of, immigrant students that, are not strong in English language. So finding ways to support those students, obviously, I'm sure everybody in here has been working on that as well. So, that's no different for us. But I would like to see the high schools do a little different. I think the awareness piece, if we get students that don't know that mechatronics is a career path. So that's something as well. They know welding and automotive are career paths, or nursing, but maybe they're not aware of the emerging technology in manufacturing and agriculture. So I don't want to, pass the buck to the high schools, but I would like to see the high schools do a little better job at this.
Thanks, Richard. And I would say you do have a lot to add, so keep adding. And I would even recall something that you said earlier that fits within this context. You changed the unit value and nature of your course to fit the lifestyles and lived experiences of your students. And that creates opportunities for people who otherwise would be excluded. So I just want to recognize that you rock.
Thank you. Right. If I could just add, that's a good point. I appreciate that. Not that I rock, but what you said about the classes. And something that I'm really interested in is our county is pretty spread out, and we attract students from Santa Clara County and San Benito County as well, and Santa Cruz. So we reach pretty far, and it's a long drive. It's a dangerous drive, and finding ways to to try to do some distance ed. It's hard because these are hands-on skills. So but that could be another emerging technology in education.
Well, and so an idea from another panel. You may have all seen in the exhibition space a giant booth called Dreamscape Learn. So they have these pods, but Cerro Coso Community College and the Kern Community College District has, I don't know how many acres of space, and it's a long drive for anybody to get anywhere. So they are getting one of those pods mounted on a trailer, and they're going to drive it around to make it more accessible for the students to participate and learn these biology skills without having to drive 2-3 hours to get to a campus. And so, awesome. That may be an idea as well. We have about 10 minutes left, so I would love to do this last one as a lightning round, and then we'll open it up to questions from the audience. And it's really, and some of you have been hinting at this all along, but we talked about the present and how to diversify the workforce. We can't talk at a futures summit without talking about the future, right? So I'm gonna literally say maybe 1 minute each, and then we'll ask the crowd what questions they have for us. They've had an hour to think and all the cookie sugar to get their brains running.
Just quickly, what I could say is AI in my area, it's obvious going to eliminate lower skilled jobs. That's a given. But what we're teaching these students now is higher skilled jobs. We're going to upskill them. They're going to make more money. There's going to be more opportunities. But the AI in manufacturing it's here. It's actually been here already. What we've been doing already, we've been doing forever. We've been entering some data in equipment. We've been making these things go by themselves for years, whether it be CAM systems and other things. I think the word AI is unique to us, but actually we've been doing it already. It's only going to get better as far as the robots, automation type stuff and things of that. So it is the future, but I will say it's been here a lot in the past already too.
Yeah, I would add, the fundamentals don't go away with AI. So, I just spent some time a couple weeks ago with the folks with Train, and they're using AI out in the field. So, but the technician, the engineers understanding and having a good understanding of airflow and heat transfer, those fundamentals of measurement and science, those don't change. But what does change is AI can give you bad information. And what really accelerates the problem then is if the technician and the engineer doesn't have a good understanding of those fundamentals and what they mean, and so when they get the wrong technical service from the AI or a direction, they can get themselves in trouble. In some cases, it's high electrical voltage areas, it can be a problem. So from our colleges, our fundamentals, Richard it's not about trigonometry and calculus, it's the fundamentals of math and geometry that are going to be even more important from an understanding. AI will help you get those things, but you also got to know the reality of what these pieces are. So those things are here already. The other part of this then is how do we continue to work with our colleges across the country and a network of pieces, and Kevin touched on this. We're spending time with middle school math teachers and science teachers to help them be inspirational about AI, but also the fundamentals that they're teaching so that we can help those students. And one thing I'll just do a little pre for Richard as he passed the mic down. We're going to be doing some a first of its kind professional development right here in California, and I'll let Richard do the invitation to that, but we look forward to engaging and doing more.
So I think that first principles and actually the 4 C's is probably going to be critical to really figure out how to sort through the BS, as well as real-time interactions with people, right? Because I think right now facts are widely accessible. So what's going to be most important is real-time, face-to-face interactions as you're going AI against AI, because you guys can all interact. So can you guys be able to work on the skills of influencing, be able to calmly debate? I think that will be very important moving forward here, as we'll be able to access facts very easily, and then if you have time to respond through email, you can very easily cater. But I do think that it's being able to correctly prompt, be able to think through if the answer actually makes sense, and then I think that's really soft skill of that real-time interactions between people.
Yeah, just real quick on what's in the future. We talked about improving efficiency in the labor-intensive tasks in agriculture, but I guess on the AI side specifically, using what's called SCADA, supervisory control and data acquisition for the manufacturing process, the machines, condition monitoring of machines, leading into prescriptive maintenance on and predictive maintenance on machines. So that's a technician's day would be, their schedule would be shaped by AI based on what these sensors are feeding back on their on the conditions of the machines. If we break down in the production run, that's leafy greens with an expiration date. The clock is ticking. So having a really good maintenance schedule using AI for that as well.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Oh, you want me to
Pam.
talk about that too?
Oh,
The
please.
training? Yes. Yeah, so thank you, Roger, for that. Yeah, at the end of this month, the first ever NC3 Train the Trainer will be at Hartnell College in Salinas, September 29th or 30th through October 3rd that week. It's 4 days. And I'll be training instructors on introduction to mechatronics and fundamentals of electricity, kind of our foundational skills that we need in smart manufacturing and mechatronics. It's part of a grant to really improve our dual enrollment pipeline, but it's really just to kind of get more training out there. So if you have any instructors that are interested, by completing the Train the Trainer, they're allowed to now certify their students on the topics, given that they have the equipment and they've completed the Train the Trainer. That's pretty much that. Yeah.
So if you got any hand raisers, come and see us. I think you have about 5 or 6 seats open that we can, happy to add anybody from the community or California to come and be part of that.
Sounds good. We'll make sure that the information is passed along to the organizers of this event so that we can have a QR code for people to sign up. We do have about 3 to 5 minutes left, depending on how much you stick to Pacific Standard Time. So we have time for at least one question. So how many of you have been thinking all along, I really want to hear an answer to this? Got someone in the back, and then we'll sneak you in. I believe we have a half-hour break before the next event, so if folks want to stick around, I don't know if the panelists have time.
Yes, thank you so very much. My name is Livia, and I teach engineering and AI in Folsom Lake College. And I wanted to help more students at least get jobs after they learn AutoCAD and Fusion. And these are tools also for automation. So I'm wondering, with robotics and with automation and emerging technology, do you consider this as a disruption in technology? It's exponentially changing and it's rapidly evolving. So did the KRA change over automation after applying robotics? Because I'm wondering if we're kind of eliminating skills and jobs for blue-collar jobs, and most of the graduates of the community colleges. Did the value and the culture change afterwards with automation, this field and technology? How long does the certification last? Because I know sometimes it's 2 years, but I just wanted to clarify, so I can get my student engaged, take this certification, it's gonna be good for your future, something like that. And and hoping that there can be more internship and apprenticeship program in between community colleges and the industry sector. And that's all. Thank you.
What's really quick, part of the question was on Fusion and CAD, whether that'd be a value or not. Was that part of the question? So I'm going to say another part of our program is a CAD degree, whatever. CAD, Fusion, NX, Creo, those are never going to go anywhere. The AI and the equipment that runs it will never even be developed unless you can draw, you can create, you can engineer, and you can make it. So I would keep teaching that all the way. I would never stop that. That is actually in manufacturing and mechanical, that is the stepping stone to everything that we do. So I would stay that route for sure.
All right.
I don't remember the rest. What's one?
Yep.
Part of the question was on the certifications as well. The NC3 certifications don't have an expiration date. So if your student has certifications, that's not like they have to recertify on something, but it's not necessarily a license to operate something or a license to perform a skill. It's really going to help in their interview process show I've been trained on specific equipment to do specific tasks at a high level, industry standard on the manufacturer's equipment. Manufacturers have huge input into that. Mentioned the blue collar jobs and some of that being replaced, but again, somebody is still going to have to install these systems, calibrate these systems, repair these systems. I don't see that being fully automated where there's zero human interaction. It's really is a collaboration, human and machine. So luckily NC3 has certifications in those skills as well, electrical wiring and plumbing skills and that as well.
Hi, my name is Raheem. I'm with AQL Labs, but I'm also a trustee for the Seattle colleges up in Washington State. And the question I have is, so maybe it was answered by your previous question, but it's really about the pace of change that's happening with AI and the time it takes for colleges to build certification programs, pathways, et cetera. And so, like, I guess one of the things that I'm trying to figure out is, as AI accelerates so rapidly, and you made a statement about, well, there are these medium skill or higher skilled things that AI will not do. I'm personally not so sure about that, but I wanted to know more about A, why you're so confident about that, but B, how can colleges design pathways that are, they can't be future proof, but that are not getting made retrograde in like a year or 2 years, like, you know what I mean? Like, because I feel like the pace of AI improving is very rapid. And how can we develop skilling programs that outpace that in a way?
I think you were referring to the AI and the skills. Correct.
Yeah, what I would say to that from my perspective is working with all the global companies I work with is that, is there higher skilled stuff that AI will have an impact on? Yes. But the ability to take and completely replace an engineer that's going to be designing a train 20-ton HVA system controller and cooler, it's still going to be built, all that engineering in there, all those pieces, the materials, the makeup, all that stuff that's going to come together from a manufacturing process standpoint, that's not going away. Or if we think about aviation, Airbus and Boeing both have composite planes. Now, 5 years ago, finishing that composite on that plane was a lot of hand operation. Today, 3M and its abrasives division has a robot that handles all that rudimentary work that you actually, but the people that used to do that are now moved up into the process actually at a higher level to manage all that, and actually both the workers doing less manual labor and the opportunity to make mistakes, where the robot is really refine that whole finishing process, save time and productivity and those kind of things. So those are just a couple examples. Same thing in ag, those pieces. So, but things still break down, things still need maintenance, things still wear out, and as new technologies and new robotic pieces come into play, well, then someone's got to integrate that, someone's got to commission it, and all those other pieces. There's a lot of similarities to 1910 through 1920 when we started to electrify pieces of equipment. And so, yes, there used to be, if you go back and read it, in the early days of the automobile, it used to take about 17 people to paint a car because they were painting it by hand. Well, DuPont and these other figured out how to spray it, automation, all that, and it went down to 2 people. Well, what happened to the other 15? They didn't get laid off. They got into the production of these other pieces. Will there be ebbs and flows in that curve as we work through those things? Absolutely. But every one of those, and I appreciate you as a trustee being here, because it's really at your level that, boy, we need more trustees in these things, because that pace of change and adaptation that's happening in our communities, it's one of the things I work on. How do we help trustees stay up with this? Well, you're still running your own business and doing these other things, because it impacts that community, right? And impacts our instructors and that leadership. So those are some things that, boy, from that strategic thing that we used to have 5 years to figure out, now sometimes we might be lucky we have 18 months to figure it out at a trustees level, and that, what are those things? So there's a lot of pieces in there, but I can't overemphasize what I hear from the global leaders. These fundamentals, these key things don't go away. They actually are amplified to a higher level of understanding that you need to have going forward.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think I'm just going to add to it that just to go back historically, I had referenced that AI is the new electricity. When electricity came out, there were chief electricity officers where people had to decide if they were AC or DC, and then now it just becomes running in the background and it just works. And I think the same thing will happen to AI, but right now we're in a shock. Same thing with cars when they came out. Like, people were so freaked out that they had to paint and cut out basically wooden cutouts and put them in front of cars to give the illusion that, a horse is smart enough to stop before the end of the cliff. If you weren't paying attention, you might drive off a cliff. I think it's almost human society accepting it. Now, AI is very disruptive, and I think now it's happening so fast. I think for the colleges and instructors, it's really hard on you since you have to learn fast and keep ahead of the students. So I think it's great that there's MOOCs available. So if you want to do some quick training, you can stay ahead of it. I think it would be beneficial to have more student-led projects so that their portfolios can build. And if you can direct them towards blue ocean type projects, I think ag is a great example where lots of problems and migrant workers, I feel like it's a very California specific too. So I feel direct them towards new problems that aren't the everyday, so they can find new solutions and create something different. Because I think there's so much opportunity in different industries that are not where your first instinct are.
Fantastic. Well, would you all please join me?
One more.
Do you all have time for one more? Okay.
Hopefully this is a quick question. It could be quick. We're wondering about dual enrollment and concurrent enrollment, if that makes sense. In your areas, has there been an increase? Has that improved over the last several years? If not, what have been the barriers?
Well, I can tell you from a national level, it's certainly improved. So I can tell you, in say Kenosha, Wisconsin, where Gateway Technical College there has something like, they went from 2,000 students being in dual enrollment up to 7,000 students being in dual enrollment. Same thing in Wichita and North Carolina. There's a lot of that. Now, does it just happen overnight? No. Is there sometimes resistance of high schools? Richard, you touched on it a little bit. They go, nope, here's our lane, and community colleges, that's your lane, and so sometimes we've got to help see that, just like technology, that this is a good thing, but it's got to be worked through, and you got to get it going. So, but I think it's an awesome thing.
Really quick. I can just basically speak for De-Anza College, what we do. It's increased every quarter. We had to do combination classes, but it is manufacturing now. This is not history, like other kind of stuff. But in the manufacturing area, it has grown every quarter. A little more fine tuning. We're really close to doing classes by themselves without having to backfill with other people. But it has grown every quarter to where we've added a class. So you can go from 2 to 4 to 6, and we're only going with a couple high schools now. We have it. But as far as the manufacturing now, and the only reason I'll say this in the Bay Area is because I went to high school down the street, the same one we service, had equipment. There is nothing there now. The only thing there, which was great, we talk about the first robotics. The first robotics is great, but it doesn't encompass all the students. I'm going to be straightforward. It's a series of students. But for the hands-on ones, I think automation will be good. Machining, 3D printing, the whole bit. It is increasing. I'm anticipating adding more and filling them stuff. So it's going one way, and it is by 50% or more has increased the enrollment of females by far.
Yeah, so for me, our dual enrollment sections have definitely increased, probably like a state initiative, leading that, obviously. Probably we're all feeling similar parts there. But some of the barriers in my community, or in my area, the state K-12 ag mechanics standards, agriculture mechanics standards, they've not been updated in over a decade. And so I'm part of the California Agriculture Teachers Association, and we have our meetings and we collaborate on that. But so now there's talks, but definitely, if the high school instructor is not seeing standards be updated and they're so focused on standards, that kind of is a little bit of a hang up. Another one is the university programs are not necessarily training teachers on modern skills necessarily. I guess I can just talk about ag mechanics. class and the lab teaching methods classes at some of the universities are teaching. It's no different than it was in like 70s, 80s, early 90s kind of a thing. So that needs to be updated, but I don't know how they measure that to be able to adjust those classes, because the universities are successful in general. So that's interesting how they would adjust that. So the need for professional development, we have a lot of passionate teachers, agriculture teachers especially in our community, but they need to be exposed to the technology and the skills. So professional development and training for them. Another barrier I'm seeing is high school administrators. For whatever reason, some school districts are just, and I understand you don't want to just jump in and make all these mistakes, but they're almost being too hesitant or too cautious in adopting dual enrollment. Another thing I want to see is in high schools, you don't need to put every single one of your students on a university track. That's not realistic, and you're setting them up for failure when you do that. Their second year is all remediation. It's they're not going to be they're not all going to be university bound right out of high school. So I think every high school should have a CTE pathway requirement. The high school I taught at did have a CTE pathway requirement. We also had an 8-period schedule, which is huge, as a split block. So we were project-based focused. So your classes were an hour and a half long, and is very project focused. A lot of high schools are still a 6-period schedule, and they put them university bound, which means they have no opportunity for CTE classes in their first 2 years of high school. So I don't know. I don't mean to bash all the high schools. I love the high schools, but yeah, they need to be more forward thinking for sure.
There we go. That brings us back to the future. And your future hopefully will be including helping me thank the panel for all their great work. And please come up and say hello, ask more questions, but I know other folks are getting ready to move on to the next event. And so thank you all, and enjoy the rest of the summit.